Our mission is to inspire, educate, and motivate young people across the Caribbean. This is the Vision Seekers podcast, where views collide, founded by Amanda Webley and Shawala Richards during the COVID-19 pandemic. But VSP is more than two. We are a team dedicated to seeking out and presenting solutions to the problems that matter to you through open and honest conversations. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Vision Seekers podcast. Today, we'll be discussing how do we tackle the issue of crime and violence in Jamaica. My name is Ariel Simmons.
And I'm unnuh.
And today, we are your co-hosts for this episode. Also, before we get too deep in the topic, we want to introduce our special guest in the person of Malik Simit. Malik, say hi to the people.
Hello, Vision Seekers. I'm so thankful for being invited to talk on crime in Jamaica. I'm really flattered by it, and I'm very much looking forward to talk about the discussion that our country definitely needs to tackle straight on. I am economics and banking and finance double major at the University of West Indies, Mona. I am 22 years of age, and man, crime is an issue that I'm very passionate about. So yeah, moving on.
All right, thank you, Malik. So before we go too deep into the topic, we want to talk about the points we'll be touching on. First, we'll be talking about the issue of crime and violence. And then in our part two, we'll be talking about how do we solve it, solutions. We don't like to just complain every day and talk about how things are bad with no solution. We want to see a change in society. And also, we need to make sure we understand some key terms such as crime, which is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as an action or offense which constitutes or is punishable by law. All right, and then the next thing is punitive policies. This is inflicting a punishment after wrongdoing. And also, there are some kinds of statistics that we'll go into, but let's first ask the question, how severe do we really think the crime issue is? Before we even go into statistics, let's hear opinions. Amanda, what would you describe the crime issue right now?
Well, when you watch the news, alone and read their study that murder, some activity, there is some children get kidnapped every single day in Jamaica. So definitely there's a crime issue. Not only that, not even to scamming yet. And school violence especially is just on the rise. So definitely there is a crime issue in Jamaica, for sure.
How about you, Malik? How would you describe the crime and violence issue? Put it in a short, concise sets of words.
Boy, Ariel, I think the crime situation is probably the worst it has ever been. We have the highest homicide rates per capita on the planet now. We are officially the deadliest country on the planet when we're talking about murders and homicides. There is a lot of kidnapping, like Amanda said, that is going on because we are connected to human trafficking rings. Jamaica is a very good trading and logistics location. In terms of its location, it's very good for trading and logistics, along with Haiti. We have a serious gun problem where a lot of our guns are illegal and a lot of our gang members are in possession of firearms that they smuggle into the country. We have a serious drug issue. And then we also have a serious scamming issue that is becoming popular. And scamming, yeah, sure, they might outpay, so a lot of us see net worth and money, but scamming is not a pretty or a nice endeavor or a job. It can be very deadly. A lot of the times the people who are killing scammers are other scammers that want more money from a deal that could be completed or gone wrong. But I think the crime situation is it's in a very, very bad situation right now. In a really bad state right now. And much needs to be done about it.
Yeah, I couldn't even put it in any better words than how you just say it. And to back up the points that you just brought up, some statistics and recent news. According to the Jamaican Gleaner, there has been a 6.5 increase in murder compared to last year, which was 2021. And the murder count for 2022 so far is 683. Like, I believe it was just last month, June. These are some of the crime news that we heard. So just in June, a St. Elizabeth teen was charged after a 9mm round of ammunition was found in his school bag. His school bag, you know, and this was in a security check. In Clarendon, there was a massacre where a lady and her 4 children, ages 15, 5, 1, and 23 months old, were killed with their necks slashed. In June, the 6th of June, 4 men were killed and another person injured in a gun attack on Railway Lane. June 14, a shootout in Spanish Town Market District happened. 3 were dead, 2 of which were found to be gunmen, followed by a murder of a woman alleged to be a mother of a gang member, and another man on Job Lane, plus more inter- and intra-gang violence. And lastly, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang noted that the lottery scamming, as you pointed out, Malik, continues to be the biggest contributor of crime and violence in the Western, especially St. James. Boy, I remember the days when you used to think of St. James and you think of nice beach and tourist attraction. When you hear St. James, you think,
boy, but here's the thing, just going back to Railway Lane and Job's Lane, those are locations in Spanish Town, and I live close to Spanish Town. And boy, all I can tell you is that it's not pretty at all. But even more recent news. They had Alkaline had a big concert, New Rules concert, and there was a young man that was shot, and his life was taken after the concert because there was a woman, I think, that was being robbed. And then there was another young man, I think his name was Dominic. I'm not sure what his full name was, but his nickname was Doms, and he did photography, and he was shot up in his house. So, and these were stuff that happened in the last week. And there's another young man that died, I think he was 15. I can't remember how he died specifically. 3 young men died in the last 7 days. And this is just the norm in Jamaica. And you said 683 people have died, but I wouldn't be surprised by the time we're recording this, we've passed 700 people, right? Because roughly, looking on how the rate is in Jamaica, I would say roughly 3 to 4 people are murdered every day. And in 2021, I think Jamaica went into the first spot as definitely the deadliest country in the Caribbean and Latin American region, but not only that, but the whole world. And I think this year we're also looking to regain that title a second year in a row. So
in the world, I didn't know it was bad.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Jamaica are nice. Jamaica are nice for certain people, which is the majority of us. Let's be honest here.
I made a point ago, for certain people, would you say there are social factors that cause the crime rate? Is there a link between the social factors like poverty and crime in Jamaica? Addiction, are contributor to the crime rate in Jamaica?
I would definitely say that there are social factors. I mean, where you grow up and where you're surrounded and how many opportunities you have definitely plays a part in crime and poverty. But I would also say our culture supports badmanism. Our culture perpetrates certain self-destructive behavior that goes and feeds into crime. If you listen to our music, for example, when was the last time you guys listened to the music and how much gun tune you hear with rifle walk and drug and killer man and this and that? I mean, people could argue the chicken and egg argument based off of that though, since, you know, you could say which one came first, but I feel like there's a feedback loop when we're talking about music. But our culture, we have really come to, I guess, you know, put badmanism and badman mentality on a pedestal. And I think we're really living with that right now, because a lot of people think that that's the way they should live, and that's not the way a lot of people should live. But on top of that, when I said that Jamaica isn't safe for certain people. When I said that, what I meant is people who are like middle class and people who are lower class and they don't have the money for security. They don't live in gated communities. They don't live in certain neighborhoods where they're safer. So a lot of people in the inner city, they don't like the badmanism. They don't like the young men who go around and they're the ones who are busting guns and stuff like that, and they don't like the dance. But they can't speak out against it because they know what will happen if they do. And then you have the middle class people that they work, then pay them taxes as well. Not saying the lower class people, they don't work as well, but you have a lot of the middle class people that also work, live in Spanish Town, live in Portmore, live in different sections of Kingston, and they're robbed and them get stabbed and them also living under crime and violence, and they're fearful of their lives. And a lot of those people, the middle class, they're the ones that are packing up and flying out and leaving the country. And leaving the country doesn't really help Jamaica when a lot of the skilled workforce is leaving and there's brain drain going on. That just makes the problem worse. So I was talking about, there's about like 2 or 3 different Jamaicas, in my opinion, 4 at most.
All right, tell us about these types of Jamaica. I'm interested.
So I thought one day to myself that there are 4 types of Jamaica, right? So about the 4 types of Jamaica, Ariel, I thought to myself one time that, there really is several different Jamaicas, because there's, for example, the nice uptown Jamaica where people living their best life, they're enjoying and them have them nice house. They're completely unaware of what is going on. While you have another Jamaica where you have the inner city Jamaica where people, them know about the area leader around the corner. They know that the Don is around there, and they know that the Don is supported by certain politicians and certain people with money and power. And then you have the next Jamaica where I call that the tourist Jamaica on the North Coast, where those tourists, they say, Jamaica nice, man. They don't know what's actually going on in Jamaica because they're only coming here to vacation. They don't actually live here. And then you have another Jamaica where that is the middle class people pretty much, and they don't fully also know what's going on in Jamaica, but they do know some aspects of what is going on. They know about some corruption. They know about, they suffer from some of the crime, but they don't know about it as much as certain people in maybe the inner cities or certain power players in the uptown communities. Because a lot of people in uptown don't know what's going on, but there's certain people with money and power that do live uptown that control a lot of stuff. So from at least what I think, I don't know everything. So
it's a good theory though. I like that. In regards to like some other causes of crime, yeah, Amanda was trying to say that another thing that influenced it was the whole mentality of inform of the dead. So you mentioned in inner city persons, they're living in the problem, but can't do much about it. One would say, why don't they go and talk to the police and, report like the crime that they see and, fight against it that way. But then they are fearful of the fact that if they speak out about it, as soon as they speak out, somebody else is gonna say, yeah, man, I surely says so. And it reaches out, and then their lives and along with their families' lives are at threat.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we have the issue of a corrupt government. Yes,
corrupt police.
Corrupt police department.
They play a heavy role into the inform of the dead mentality, by the way, because a lot of the people who call and inform to the police, them are friends, the police, some of them are friends with the area leaders and dons. And then that's where the message gets brought back to, and then, you end up hearing that the person is dead or was murdered. And no one is going to make up any noise about it because we have a culture as well where, like I said, we worship a lot of bad men or worship a lot of dons, and they say, yo, him a me don, him a the one don, him a the bad man, nobody can test him. All of the girl them want him, all of the girl them love him, and all of the boy them revere him and want to be like him. And I kind of fell off the train of thought a while ago. I was about to say that pretty much we worship bad man culture in the country, and that stems from that. Everything else stems up from there. The inform of the dead, multiple women going after men that are more like that, because that is what's respected in the community. And then it is just a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
That really happens.
And on the point of like everybody respect the Donman or everybody revere the Donman, it could also be a way that disenfranchised persons, persons that feel without power and so on within these inner city area, feel important, feel value, feel purpose, and so on. So they look the gang as a way of getting respect and so on.
Oh yes,
so that's a good.
And just to bring up this dynamic area, this is a very interesting dynamic that you just brought up. A lot of these boys and a lot of these young men, most times they're younger than us, they have no real father figure. So they look up to the Don as a father figure. And the Don, by the time they reach 14, 15, them are part of a gang. And then to get the respect and for everybody to rate them and like them, the Don say them on a maneuver or on a ops to go kill somebody for them or for transport some drugs or something like that so they can have a full initiation in a gang. Stuff like this have been going on for decades. And a lot of that is because it was pushed by, let's just say it has links to political parties, which I think all we thinking Jamaicans know about already. But the next thing I was also going to say, and I just remembered, is that you will hear when a young man or a Don is murdered or arrested and you see people go out on the road immediately and block the road and go on like the world is ending. But when an innocent person or some nobody, in quotation, I guess, and nobody is murdered or killed, no one is blocking any roads. There's no protesting going on. You don't see TVG and CVM down there. So that feeds into the culture of them, or that proves to the culture that they respect Dons more than they respect innocent people. And I'm talking about the general set of people, I guess, in the communities. I mean, you can't really publicly lick out against the Don them though, because you know what will happen. So
that is so true. Just before we go to the next question, because you brought up the whole thing with the political links with crime and violence, I just wanted to bring up some stats because some persons probably wondering like, what was the cause of like why for such a small country we're so violent? And it's not like just any little reason that people just want.
Like 3 million or
3 million, roughly 3 million.
Oh, okay. That reads stuff into perspective for number one in the world for crime with just 3 million.
Yeah, well, when I say number one, I'm talking about homicide rates. So Jamaica, as far as I know, the homicide rate for 2021, because I've written articles about crime already. I've written about 3 articles, so I know some of the data. The crime rate for 2021 was, I think, 49.4 or 49.5 out of 100,000. Now, some people might hear that and say, oh, that's not a lot of people. But the world average is like maybe 15 or 10. And we are pushing 5x that. Right? We are roughly 1,400 people that we know of. Let's just keep that in mind, that we know of, that those are registered homicides or deaths are dying. So our official rate is 49. It could be even higher. So, and it's that rate is the highest in the world. We have officially passed out El Salvador, Honduras, Venezuela, Mexico. We have passed out those deadly Central and South American countries. And we have claimed that spot in number one. And I can't say I'm surprised, because what we worship and what we fight out against in this country, we fight out against good people, we fight out against education, we fight out against people that are trying to stand up for the right thing, and we laugh at them, we slap down and put them down, and we push up galleys, and we push up bad man, and we push up all kind of different behaviors. So I mean, what would we expect? This has been going on in Jamaica for about over 40 years.
Yeah, as well as my parents.
Yeah, so we are reaping what we sowed.
Let me just give a little history before we get away too far, because this is a very, very engaging conversation, but I want to put down the foundation of the history of our crime and violence. So there was a Transparency International Corruption Perception Index done in 2000 19, and Jamaica scored 43. And that is, I'm assuming, very high. Also, political violence have been going on from all the way to, back to 1976, and the period in which it really 1976 to 1980, and this because of a presidential election. And at the time, the ideology was about communism versus capitalism. And you know, there was a lot of fear mongering going on. I can imagine they were saying, like, if they're bringing communism, you know, the country's gonna fall, they're gonna take away all your money and whatever. Probably persons were saying capitalism is the worst, they're oppressing you and so on. And they really get the people revved up that they have to say, you can't afford for this party to win. No, like, you have to make sure that the person within your area vote for this one. We are the right party, whatever. So then persons, they're now fiery and they're passionate about it. And now communities become identified with a political party. We have the arising of garrisons, right? And a garrison is, it would have been the constituency. What we know as constituencies, where you have the little area where in an MP is in control of whoever is elected. Those areas now became aligned to a specific party. Those were called strong seats. And this is how we now started with the gangs, right? So now the politicians, they started working along with individuals to ensure that they get the votes. And persons weren't too concerned with how they get those votes, whether it be peacefully or violently. And if you were a person with a different point of view, like for instance, say this garrison is known to be a PMP stronghold and I am JP. I can't make nobody know say me a JP. You mad? They will come for me and my family.
Oh,
and
yes.
Up until the 80s, the political leaders and dons were mutually dependent on each other, right? The dons make sure that the politicians get the votes so that they hold the seat, and the politicians sure that the dons, they will get stuff like jobs, housing, power in terms of don leadership. But then it started to escalate to the point that now guns turn more organized and move into drug trading, you know, trading of guns and so on. So it started to get out of hand. And now the link between politics and crime is not as strong as back then, but there is still some residue of it. But I just wanted to put that out there because it's a very, very important factor in how Jamaica got to the point at which it did.
Oh, yes. And I'll just say that the garrison expansion didn't stop until the early 2000s, because a lot of the garrisons that we're seeing today during the 90s, they were expanded on and they're brought under control by different political parties all the way up to like the early 2000s. But what you said about the gangs getting more into organized crime and becoming more independent and getting into drugs, illegal ammunition and guns and stuff like that. Yeah, that definitely started happening around the late 90s to going into the early 2000s and stuff like that. That could actually be one of the reasons as to why Dudus, well, that's not cool. It was one of the reasons why Dudus was arrested in the first place, because I'm pretty sure the DEA was in on arresting him. So yeah, we in a situation here, and it's stemmed all because of political tribalism.
So we talk about like the trends, and we talk about the origin, like the political and garrison link throughout our history. Now let's look at some implementations the government themselves have put in place to combat crime and violence. And do you think the implementations like those have been effective? Starting with you, Ariel.
All right, so I did some research because some of the main ones that we tend to know about are like the curfew, the Zozo, the SOE and all of that. But there were some other stuff that were done way back a couple years ago. So the first one was put in place in 1974 called the Gun Court Act, where a person would be charged with gun crime within for 7 days arrest. If found guilty, they would be detained indefinitely and subject to release was made by a review, was made by a board which would review like the circumstances in which they were found with the gun and so on. And I'm pretty sure this was put in place because of the whole tensions that were starting to build up during that political rivalry, the capitalists versus the communists. And another thing that was done in 2013 was Unite for Change. Then in October, there was Operation Resilience. And under this operation, 346 anti-gang operations were conducted, which led to 361 arrests and recovered 201 firearms. So, you know, not too bad. In 2008 to 2015, the anti-corruption branch merged with major organized crime and anti-corruption agency to combat the police corruption issue. And under that, 26 officers face criminal corruption charges. And the last one that I'll mention is the 2017 Zones of Special Operation Bill Zozo.
I just wanted to add in, by the way, you said that the PNP, JLP, the communists and the capitalists were fighting each other. It's important to set the foundation as to why that was happening, and that was happening because of the Cold War that was going on for decades on the global stage between the United States and the USSR. The USSR is now basically modern day Russia. So Russia was pushing communism and America was pretty much pushing democracy and capitalism. So yeah, that's why that happened. And America was very concerned about what could happen with Jamaica because of what happened with Cuba already. Because, you know, Cuba was in charge, Fidel Castro was in charge of Cuba and Castro was a communist. So just to set some background information there regarding that.
All right, so that brings us to the end of part 1 of this episode, where we look at the causality of crime and violence in Jamaica, trends and sister contexts. Join us for part 2, where we look at some solutions to the crime and violence issue in Jamaica.
This has been an episode of the Vision Seekers podcast. Together we can create a society that benefits us all. Send us an email at thevisionseekers.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube and Instagram at The Vision Seekers Podcast and follow us on Twitter at Vision Seekers JA. We look forward to hearing from you.